Hello, I'm Jesse Rogers. Welcome to Rogers Math, and I have a very special guest with us today. This is going to be Mike Ba, joining us from Senegal. And so Mike, I believe, is the only person in his village who speaks English. I could be wrong about that now. Hopefully, more people are learning, but really astounding to teach himself English, and he's learning new languages like Python, programming language. And so really excited to help his progress on this. And we met on a computer programming group on Facebook, and now we've kind of both joined Codingame and have been spending some time there. So, Mike, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Jess.
So, I wanted to just give you a chance to tell people about yourself a little bit. Tell people about your journey and what it's taken to get as far as you have.
Yeah. Thank you. Hello, everybody. How are you? My name is Mike. I'm in Senegal, West Africa. I am teaching in a small village called Codingame in north of my country. I met Jess. He is my friend on Facebook in a coding program page, and he is really a nice guy, wonderful guy. He is sharing a lot of things with me, like in coding, in programming. Uh, Here I teach little kids in a school, but I'm also interested in coding and programming because I think it is the future. And if I learn coding, I can find a way to help my school children and to train them and to introduce them into coding, which is a really interesting field, a growing field that we people here in Africa do need to sort out our challenges, our daily problems. Coding can help us, and Jess is really doing an extraordinary job by helping us and sharing with us all the information we need. And also, we hope you guys can give us suggestions because it is not easy in Africa to learn coding. We have not access to a lot of tools. Yes, he's just trying his best to give me all the information, all the courses I need to learn. But yet there is still many challenges, uh, as I am the only one in this village who can get access to a computer and who can also understand English, even though English is not my mother tongue, it is not my first language, but I try my best to get access to the world, to meet people, to try to see how I can share with people and learn a lot from you guys. And it is really wonderful and a great opportunity to meet you here. Thank you, Jess.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to support Mike and his community, I'm going to put a link to PayPal there. So if you want to make any donations or contributions to what we're doing here with the channel, let's get those to Mike, and so he can help move things along, get more people computer access and things like that. So, but yeah, we're really glad to have you here, Mike. And my belief is that if you can do it from a remote village in Senegal, uh, by teaching yourself English and then teaching yourself programming and then eventually landing a job in the field or building an application or doing something that fulfills your dreams. If you can do it from there, then it's possible for anybody to do it from anywhere. I think that's
Yeah.
uh, maybe not easy. I'm sure it hasn't been easy to get as far as you have, but just the fact that it's possible is really astounding. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to help you with that however I can. I wish I had more resources to give, but all I have is the knowledge that I've acquired from trying to learn this myself. I've only been working on Python for about a year, trying to figure it out and trying to use computer games and the free materials that are available on YouTube and things like that in order to learn it. And so I myself am very much a novice in a lot of ways, and so although I'm a professional educator and I've done a lot of mathematics tutoring, when it comes to programming, I'm still pretty new, just like Mike here is. So I'm going to show you my code. You'll see that in just a second because I've got 500 lines of spaghetti code here for our most recent 2022 coding game challenge. I'm not going to claim that it's the best thing at all, and I hope in the comments you're going to give me some suggestions on what I can do to improve my code. But we're going to go ahead and go over what it is that I did for this most recent challenge. And let me just go ahead and share screen here. Okay, I think this is it. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'm going to zoom in a little bit because I think it might possibly blur. Although, um, can you see that clearly, Mike? Are you able to read the text?
Yeah, I can see it. It's
Okay.
perfect.
All right, good, good. So I'm going to show you just real quick what this thing, how it operates. And again, this took me 500 lines of code to make it do this. And I did get to Silver League, so that's pretty good. Um, and so I'm in the blue here, and what I'm trying to do is grab as much territory as I can, grab and hold as much territory as I can. And you can see the computer beat me by 2 points. I did pretty good that time. And the basic strategy is that um, if my nearest units are a certain distance away from their nearest units, then I kind of split off in every direction. But until then, these first few moves, my opening moves, what I'm doing is I'm moving towards the computer. So when I get close enough, then it sort of splits off and my guys go in different directions. But initially, I'm trying to get close to the computer so that I'm as far into their territory as I can get, without trading too many of these robots. Because you can see, um, I do have more robots in this area right here, so that seems like I should win this battle, and I do, but they immediately start putting more robots near me, and
Mhm.
and my guys are sort of wandering off now and going in different directions, and so it doesn't take long before I'm either even or outmatched. So now you can see I've only got a couple bots, and they're blocking me off. They're putting a recycler here to block off my guys. And then shortly after that, yeah, it looks like I'm pretty much just done being able to take over that area there. And now they've got more units in that immediate area. So I have to put up a recycler to block them, and they still keep pushing in. And before you know it, there's just no way for me to get access to any more of their squares, and I'm blocked off. So that's as good as I was able to get it during this competition. It closed a couple days ago, and I was ranked. It was something like 1,300 out of 4,500. So it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't the top 100 that I was hoping for. But I'll go ahead and show you what I did to get as far as I did. So
Yeah.
the first thing I did is I declared a class. And basically what a
Mhm.
class is, it's like an object that has a number of different characteristics. So it has the scrap amount. So each one of these squares has a certain amount of scrap on it, and that can be harvested by those recyclers. So the scrap is one of the values that it would have. Who owns that tile? That's going to be another characteristic of each cell. And then we've got the number of units that are on it. So, for example, this one, you can see that this had 4 blue units. Uh, and so the number of units is recorded. Whether it has a recycler or not, that's this self.recycler. And so if it's got a recycler, that's going to be 1. If it doesn't have a recycler, that's 0. Whether you can build on it, again, it's going to be 1 if you can build a recycler, 0 if you can't. If you can spawn, that's going to be a 1. If not, that's going to be a 0. If it's in range of a recycler, because you can see what happens with these recyclers is they each turn they're taking material from the square that they're on, but also the 4 adjacent squares as well. So they're grinding down that middle area. You can see that those keep disappearing and turning into grass in the middle area. And so if it's in range of a recycler, it's at risk of turning into grass. And then the X and Y coordinates, whether the now these right here are not fed to us by the computer each round. These are additional things that I added on. So, for example, how many neutral squares are adjacent, how many squares the opponent has that are adjacent, what the distance to the enemy is, and whether or not that square has been picked as a target or not yet. So these are all sort of like helper variables that I created. So that's what's involved in every cell. And then I created some functions that allow us to do something with that cell. So, for example, the distance to function, all this is going to do is it's going to get the distance from one of my cells to some XY coordinate. And so dx, I'm saying that's the absolute value of whatever the cell's x value is minus whatever the x value that I put in is. So just the x distance and the y distance. And then it returns both of those distances added together. Because you can't move diagonally in this game. You can only move. So, if you wanted to get to this square, for example, from this square, you'd have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be a distance of 4. So that's why I had to just add the x distance and the y distance together instead of trying to find the hypotenuse. So I've got a few functions here that help me to set up each of the cells. And then I've got a blank. I sort of differentiate it into blank cells, which you're able to build recyclers on, and robot cells, which already have units on them. And so blank cells, as you can see, I have like, these are the directions to print. This is a function that builds a recycler, and all it does is just print, build, and then the XY coordinates. And you can see this function at the end of the print statement. I'm putting end equals and then empty quotation marks. And the reason for that is because you have to provide all of your instructions on one line of code. So I don't want to. A print statement would normally just take you down to the next line, but I don't want it to do that. So to prevent it from going to the next line and to keep everything on the same line, that's why all of my print statements have this end equals empty quotations. And at the very, very bottom, I think what I did is, yeah, at the very bottom, I just gave a print empty quotations, and that would just take it to the next line. That would basically finish the line. And that's how I finished the turn. So each turn, it's going through this while loop. So the format that I used was, first I set up a bunch of classes that each have their definitions, or their defined functions for that class, and then I put a bunch of functions that aren't part of classes. They're just functions, kind of like standalone functions. And then finally down here, this is where the variables are actually provided by Codingame. So it's going to give me the width and the height. It's going to give me, and I think I put all the rest of these in. I think I started the turn at 0. I started so static turns was a strategy that I had where what I wanted to do was see how many turns the board had stayed unchanged. And if I was losing, I wanted it to create a recycler so that I would get extra income and I'd be able to make more units. And so it was sort of like a last ditch effort to win. If I was the underdog, I was going to sacrifice some of my own squares to get more income to hopefully break the stalemate and win. But I never got around to coding that. So static turns doesn't really do anything, although I had an idea for what it could do. And so you can see in my code, if you go through the entire thing, you can see that there's a lot of things like that where I had various ideas, but I couldn't, I didn't have time to implement all of them. I sort of ran out of time. So then this is the main game loop. This is just going to continuously until the game is over by either there being 200 turns or the field being stable for 20 turns. It's going to keep on continually making this game loop run. And what I'm doing is I'm clearing all of these lists. I'm declaring all these lists and I'm setting them as blank. And then I fill them up here with the information that they give me for each of the cells. So here's where I get that cell information. It says for I in range height, and then for J in range width. So the I represents the Y values and the J represents the X values of each of these positions of the cells. Um, and it gives me for each of the cells, it gives me all that information: scrap amount, owner, units, recycler, whether you can build on it or not. And then I have all these conditions to help me sort those into these lists. So I have all of the cells. That's going to be the entire game board. And then I have my squares. So there's a list that just has the territory that I control. And then I have my robots that just has only the sites where I've got a unit on that site. And then my recyclers, those are the spots where I technically still own that square, but it's um it's going to turn into grass, and you can't move onto it. There's the opponent's robots, and then the grass squares. I actually did eventually decide to also make a list just for these empty grass squares that you're not able to go on. They don't contribute to your total or anything like that, but it could be helpful for other reasons to have a list of all the grass sites. So I put those on there as well. The targets. What I made for targets is I wanted that to include the uh, neutral, unowned territory as well as the opponent's territory. And so that targets is going to include both. Neutral squares is just going to include these unowned squares. And then I have the conditions to sort each of the cells into whichever one of those it should go into. And from there, I'm going to manipulate it with my functions. And there's just a whole bunch of logic here of if then statements and for loops and all that it would be too complicated to go into all of this um, for the episode that we're doing, but that's pretty much the overview. I just collect all the variables here, sort them into different bins, and then I have logic to control um, what I'm going to do with each of those variables. So, for example, here's one. I'm trying to choose which is the best spot to spawn a new robot, and what I am using is the opponent squares and my squares. So whichever one of my squares is closest to the opponent squares, that's where I want it to spawn my robot, so that it's like right on the front lines. You know, it's uh, close to where the action is. And so that's what I'm using with this function is I'm just pretty much getting for each of the squares, I'm finding the one that's closest to which has the shortest distance to the opponent squares, and then I'm finding what the index of that is, and then if that index is not -1, then that means there is a square that's closest, and so I'm going to train my robot on that square, and that's pretty much what I'm doing. That's just one part of it. So you have to train the robots, you have to tell them when to move and where to move, and you have to build recyclers um, in order to block the opponent from coming into your territory, but also to get extra income. So that's pretty much an overview. I know that was a lot. So you had seen the video where I gave a much more simplistic explanation, right? I think there's only like one or two functions that I did on that other video. Um,
Yes.
so were you able to follow along with what I did in the previous video, and did this clarify anything, or did it just make it a whole lot more
Of
confusing?
course, it was very easy for with a video to understand it. The video you have done on YouTube.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put a link to that too, because I know anybody who's watching this right now, just coming into it fresh, it's probably a lot to take in all at once. But I did a video where I gave again a much more simplistic, uh, less developed version of this that
Yeah.
just sort of gets the bot up and running.
Yeah.
Um, have you used object oriented programming at all? Have you used classes and functions in your programming at all?
No, I haven't used it.
Okay. So maybe what I could do is just back up a little bit and talk about functions more generally. So I like to go to a I'll do Python online compiler, and I like to go to this online-python.com,
Mhm.
and sometimes it has ads pop up, but hopefully we'll be okay. Um, and so what I'm gonna what I'm gonna do with this is pretty much just describe what a function is, like how a function works. So in mathematics, you might have something like y equals x squared plus 3 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And if you wanted to plug a value into x, you could find out what the y value is. So like for example, let's say that x is 3, so then y equals 3 raised to the
Square
second
plus three
power plus 3. Yep. So that would equal 9
plus
plus
three
3,
12.
which is 12, right? So
Yeah.
um the these are functions. If we change the name from y, if we change that to f of x,
Mhm.
then f of x would equal x squared plus
Plus
3. It's
three.
really just a different way of writing it. It's like giving it a name, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what we could do is we could turn now, if we try to run this, of course the computer's not going to know what to do with this because it's not in computer language yet. But
Yeah.
we could take this same idea of, and we know that it's supposed to give us 12 if we put an x value of 3 in there. So what we could do is we could take this and we could turn it into a function. So I'm just going to put def f of x. So it's defining the function f, it's
Yeah.
accepting the variable x, and
Yeah.
then instead of equal, I'm going to have this semicolon. So it's going to say, I want, so it's saying Python, what I want you to do for the f function is substitute the x value and then
Yeah.
return, this is going to be the y. And I'm not going to use x raised to the power of 2 like that. I'm going to use raised to the power of 2 as two multiplication symbols. That's in Python what raised to the power of is. So this is going to be, we're going to define a function f of x, and it's going to equal um, x squared plus 3. Just so this is just the way to take that mathematical concept and translate that into Python. So
Python language.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
now I'm going to have it print. I'm going to have it print because if I could run this and you'll see what happens. I'll just go ahead and run it, and it's not going to give me any errors, but it's not going to do anything either because I haven't given it, I haven't told it to give me any sort of output yet.
You
So
need to
what I
put
can,
print.
so yeah, we're going to need a print statement. So let's say print
Yeah.
f of 3 and see what happens then. So I'm going to run this now, and you can see it gives me 12, right? So I could change the value of
Okay.
this, and I could find out what it is for other values too, but I can only do that as
It,
the
it,
programmer.
it's like you need two steps. First step, you need to declare the function. And the second
Yep.
step, you need to tell to Python to print it.
hmm Yep.
I
Exactly.
understand.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I'm doing with all of these functions. Each of these functions is doing something like that. Some of them are, um, calculating a distance. Some of them are finding the index of which is the closest in a list. So let's talk about lists. Let's talk about lists here. This was where? Oh, here it is. Okay. So now let's say that I have a list. Um, and what I'm going to do is uh, I'm going to say, let me get rid of this print statement for now. I'm going to say um, x values is going to be this, and I'll put input. Um, let's say well, yeah, for I in, let's say 5, range 5. So it's going to do this 5 times. It's going to ask for um, an x value, and it's going to be, the input is enter an x value, and I want it to be an integer. So I'm going to put the um, integer command right here. So that's going to take whatever the input is. It's going to accept it normally as a string. That's what input would, when it accepts information from the user, it's going to take it as a string. But a string is like a phrase of characters. You can't perform operations with it. Like you can't, it's like if you get a string of characters and that string of characters is desk.
Yeah.
I can't take desk and erase desk to the third power. It won't know what to do with that, right?
Yeah.
I need to let Python know that this needs to be an integer in order to move
Integer.
forward, right? So I'm saying
Okay.
that this is an integer, whatever we're getting from the user, it's a string, but I'm going to
Yeah.
convert it to an integer. And I'm going to do that for each of the x values. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that x value and I'm going to say x values, which is a list, and I'm going to append whatever that most recent x value was that we just obtained from the user. All right. And then, so that's what it's going to do when it gets all those x values. And then what I'm going to do is for I in range length of x values, which is going to be 5, but it could be something other than 5 if we were making this program more complicated. So for I in the range of however long that list is, I'm going to have it print the um, y value when x is, and then I'm going to have it say what the x value is. So it's going to be x values I. That's saying whatever the this is going to go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it actually
Oh,
stops at one less than 5 because it's counting
yeah.
0. So five numbers would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see that
Five.
there, if you count that up, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers there. And so that's why
Yeah.
it stops at 4. It stops at one less than whatever that range is there.
Yeah.
So this is going to be the y value when x is, and then I'm going to have it say what the x value is that it's on, and then it's going to it the y value when x is blank will be, and then I'm going to have it print. I'm going to have it do the f of x function, so it's going to be f of, and any idea what I would put here for the index?
Two.
Y2.
I just think we must put two.
Okay. Well, so sometimes it could be where um, you have the x value as the what's in the 0 index and the y value in what's in the 1 index. That would be for a tuple, and I'll get to those in a little bit. But what I would put is f of, and then I want it to take whatever this x value is here. So I'm actually going to take whatever the x value is, and I'm going to include that as what I'm passing to the function here. So then let's go ahead and uh, close that. And so I'm going to run this and see if I have any mistakes. Okay, so I've got a mistake here. It says in line 11, print, and it's unmatched. So I think I added an extra parenthesis here when I wasn't supposed to. Okay, so let's try that again. I'm going to run it. By the way, I always expect an error in there somewhere. So when I run
Yeah.
it, it's rare that I get it with no errors. So fortunately, it tells you what line your error is on, and you can just go there, and usually there's a misspelling or there's a missing parentheses or something always goes wrong. But anyway,
Yeah.
so we're going to enter an x value. So let's go ahead and put in like, um, we'll put in an x value of 2, we'll put in an x value of 3, x value of 5, x value of blocked. I can't even see this now. X value of let's say 7, and then maybe an x value of -3 and see how it does with those. Hit enter, and it says the y value when x is 2, and then it doesn't say anything after that. Okay, so I'm missing here somewhere. What am I missing? So the y value when x is 2. Oh, I see what it is. It's because this should not have been closed right here. Should have been closed right here. So let's try that again. So enter an x value. Okay. So there we go. So again, it's you got to see where the parentheses are and make sure that they're actually where you want it to be, because otherwise it won't run the way you expect. So, but it's saying the y value when x is 2 will be 7. So in other words, it's taking this list of 5 x values and it's substituting those into
Yeah.
this function of x squared plus 3.
Function.
And so
Yeah.
each of those, we already did this y value of x. When
Yes.
x is 3, it will be 12, right? So we
So,
did that manually by plugging the 3 in there. But it's doing it for all of those
yeah.
values that we asked it for. And so we could confirm,
Yeah.
let's just do this. X is, when x is -4, y will be 19. So this is going to be -4. When -4 gets squared, that's going to be a
Yeah.
positive 16.
Positive 60.
And then 16 plus 3 gives us the 19. So
90. Yeah.
yeah, so it is operating correctly. And what I'm doing is, again, just to kind of run through this again, the function right here
Mhm.
is just the same as in math. It's just that we have a syntax here where we're defining the function, we're naming it f, and we're passing
Mhm.
it a variable x.
Yeah.
And then it's going to return for us a value
Mhm.
of x raised to the second power plus 3.
Yeah.
Then I'm declaring that there's going to be a list. And then
Mhm.
I'm filling that list with 5 values that are generated by the user. I
Yeah.
have to make sure that those are integers in order for this to work the way that we would want it to work. And
Yeah.
I know, again, I know that this is a lot at first. Um,
Yeah.
I'm using a lot of different words that someone who's new to the language is not going to be familiar with. Range, input,
Yeah. Yeah.
append. These are all commands that you have to practice and
I
get
just
used to.
wanted to let you know that since yesterday I am learning the names of Python we use in
Hmm.
Python, like integers, like
Hmm.
this word print. And once I understand all this the language, it will make it easier for me to follow.
Yeah, for sure.
I am
Yep.
yet new at the language, but I have downloaded a lot of videos on YouTube, like coding. There are sites on YouTube that I can learn there for free. A
Hmm.
lot of videos. I'm still at it. It will maybe took me a week to really understand all of this language and to be really fit to follow the rest.
Yeah, it comes with time. It's not something that overnight you'll be able to just snap your fingers and be able to follow all this stuff. Even after I learned all those vocabulary words and those the syntax and all of those things, it still took
Yeah.
me months before I could solve even simple problems by using Python, because it was just um it was really hard for me. It was something very unfamiliar, even though I've done a lot of math. Python is just it's a different thing. And so
But it is already wonderful
yeah,
the way you pass from algebra
yeah,
into Python.
thank you, yeah,
I
no,
love I really
I
love
I
it.
think that's it, but a lot of people are wondering, like, when am I ever going to use this math stuff? And you really use, like, you can really apply it to a lot of
Yeah.
situations. It's very valuable if you understand it. So yeah, hopefully that will give math teachers out there even more conviction that
Yeah.
you're not wasting your students' time. This is like
Yeah.
it's really cool stuff. And you can play really fun games with it. Like, this is only one of them, but it's not even my favorite. I'll go ahead and maybe we'll close this video out just by giving a brief tour of Codingame and some of the other things that I've uh, had a chance to practice with. And so I'm going to go to this is my um, map of what I've done so far on the website. And you can see I've done a lot of stuff. Like, each one of these nodes is some sort of accomplishment that they want you to do. And I did a lot of Clash of Codes. This is where I learned a lot because you can look at what other people do to solve problems. You can see how their code stacks up against yours, and so often I found from playing against people much more experienced than myself that they had much more efficient ways of solving problems than what I was aware of. And so I really recommend Clash of Code. They're just like these short 15-minute competitions. And I lost them for months. Like I never came in first for a very long time. But it's okay because my goal wasn't to come in first. My goal was to make sense of the language and figure out how to solve the problems. And Clash of Code is perfect for that. So I'm really impressed with the coding game team for how they put code Clash of Code together. It's got 500,000 people on the leaderboard. Like it's a huge
Yeah.
pool of people that have done this, and most of them will share their code with you. So at the end of the match, uh, most people will show you how they solve the problem. And I find that just so helpful. I've really been able to learn so much from it. So that's a good place to start with those like very small puzzles. And then you could also do some of these classic puzzles,
Yeah.
which I've done a few, although I haven't got all of them perfect by any means either. This one's Batman, and my code here is basically taking him to the bomb. He's zeroing in on trying to find the bomb, and so that's all the logic. It's not hundreds of lines of codes for this. I did this one in 42, and that's with a lot of annotation as well. So it's not even all code that the computer is reading. A lot of that's just comments, and so these are much shorter problems if you want to do the algorithms. And then once you finish with that, then there's I mean, you don't have to finish. You can switch back and forth between different things, and then you can do some AI competitions like the one that we just did here. But that's not even my favorite one. I really liked Code Royale. I'll just go ahead and show you this one. This one's pretty cool. So you get like it's almost like a StarCraft or like a Warcraft kind of thing where you have your queen and she goes around and she um there we go. So I just built a mine here. Or no, that's the computer. I'm the red. So I built a mine, and then I built
Yeah.
a barracks, and I'm going to another site over here so that I can build another, probably a mine, I think. Yeah, building more mines. And then I'm building some towers here to
Yeah.
protect myself with. And so it sort of has like that feel of like a RTS, like StarCraft or like Warcraft. I don't know if you ever played those games.
No.
Have you ever tried StarCraft, Warcraft, Age of Empires, anything like that?
No. No. Since I have never to do it. I'm sorry.
No. Okay. Well, those are pretty fun games. I'll have to link you to those at some point. But I spent countless hours playing those games when I was a kid, so it's cool to be able to program the AI for it. And
Yeah.
it's like real time chess almost. That's what it feels like. Um, so it looks like I'm doing pretty good. You can see that the opponent has 67 health, and my guy still has 100 health. So I was able to get a couple hits on there, and slowly but surely, I think I'm probably going to win this round. And this is one of my favorites, but there's so many cool games on this platform.
Yeah.
Um, so that's another one right there. And then um, there's another one that I spent a lot of time on. I wish I had a better score on it, but uh, it is what it is. I'll keep improving on it. I did get into Gold League, so that's pretty good. Uh, so I'll go ahead and show you this one. This is
Spring
uh,
challenge.
yeah, the spring challenge from earlier this year. It was about a year ago, and so this was uh, it's pretty much like, oh, it's got a little bug there of some kind. Uh, Here, let me turn that debug mode up. My message is off. There we go. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I just had to change some of the settings. Okay, so basically you've got three units. and you've
yeah,
got these spiders that
yeah,
are going across the middle of the map, and you can kill those spiders. You can
yeah,
also use a excuse me, you can use a wind spell to try
yeah,
to push those spiders into the opponent base. And there's other spells too. You can mind control them. There's a
yeah,
shield that you can put on them to make them spell immune. And so there's like a few variations of strategies that you could do with this that are pretty interesting. And I
yeah.
spend a lot of time trying to it's almost like soccer. It kind of reminds me of like soccer, but with spiders. You're trying to kick
Okay.
spiders into the goal. And oh, you see, you got me. Okay, so I've only got one heart left, and looks like he's doing some work getting my. No, I did one. I won this one. All
You
right,
won.
cool.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Sometimes I win. Sometimes I win. So it's not every time, but you can
Yes.
see I use the distance formula and the midpoint formula. Um, there's a lot of math involved in these if you want to get your bots to move in a sensible way, if you want to get your units to move around in a logical way, you got to think about how you want to get the shortest distances and things like that. And so there's a lot of math involved. This one was also hundreds of lines of code. So these are some of the more complicated things that you'll do after you've gotten a little more experience at like the clash of code and the algorithms those are just like um, really short challenges where like you're trying to reverse text or you're trying to count up how many letters there are in a phrase or something like that. Like just really small
Yeah,
puzzles.
yeah,
And then these longer AI battles, like you're going to be incorporating a lot of those ideas, but you piece together what you've learned in some of those other challenges, and so it all kind of builds on
yeah,
each other. So that's a little overview um, of the coding game platform. And again, I've only been on it for like 6 months, 8 months, something like that. I started over the summer in 2022 um,
yeah,
on Clash of Code and things like that. And because it was just so interesting to me and it was so much fun to program, I spent a lot of time on it, and I eventually got good at it.
yeah.
And still not the best, but I can sometimes get Silver League or Gold League, and uh, you know that took a really long time to be
Yeah.
able to accomplish. So
Me
I'm
also,
excited.
it will just take me some time, but I will small by small meet all of these challenges. I'm
Yeah.
really already excited, and it is a very fun game, but I just need to step by step learn first of all my Python courses
Yep.
and also begin small by small. Also with the time I have during days I'm at school, only evenings I will get on coding game little by little. You will see my progress. I promise you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I,
I
I don't
promise you.
doubt that. And your English is fantastic, by the way.
Really? I
Yeah,
just try.
yeah, it is.
English is my second language. I have done a lot of exercises because anyone here can speak English. I I didn't have materials. I just used to go on libraries, borrow some books, and read it myself because here it is a French country.
Yep.
But I have done my best. Now I can communicate with people elsewhere, and they can, as much as I can, understand what I mean. And it is just enough. Now I keep progressing also in my English, learning my code. I am someone who love to learn and meet challenges. There's a lot of challenges. It is not like in American standard here. We have not internet available at all sometimes, and I just try. I have meet a challenge to have a computer and find a way to share my mobile phone internet. This is how I get in contact with the world. And if I can do this, I think it will take time, but I will come up to do all of these codings. And with your help, I really want to believe I can make it. I really want to believe I can make it.
That's very exciting. And it's also a great example for all those students who are in your class right now, and they're
Yeah.
seeing Mr. Ba do these things that should be impossible, but they're not impossible because you found a
It is
way to
not
do it,
impossible.
right?
And
So,
maybe it will take 2 years or something like that because the
yeah.
future of education here depends on the new tools we bring, like coding to the kids. I think if I learn a lot, I can introduce them into coding and into my computer. They need to know these tools because we are in 21st century. Uh, if not, we do not this, we will be left behind. We will not follow the march of the world. This is our only hope. Like, and the kids also as a future, they need to learn these new tools of the future, and they can make it. They are very smart in mathematics. They do it a lot of calculus, and I think if we show them very well how it works, kids also can learn very, very fast.
It might be a big challenge to try to learn English and programming at the same time. So, the students who only speak French, if you go to the language and Codingame, this site was actually originally created by the French, by some French programmers, and so it actually is. You could switch it to French, and we had talked about this last time because
Yeah, of course.
I
I
couldn't
don't know.
understand your code at first, and that was because it was in French. But for anybody watching this that only um, or that primarily speaks French, that is currently an option. So you can change it to English or you can change it to French. And so hopefully your students that are only French speaking at this point, um, that won't be an obstacle, and they could still get started learning Python and or any other language because we can go to one of the challenges, and I'll go ahead and click on here. You can see that for any of these puzzles or Clash of Code um, or the AI contests, like anything that you're doing, you have all of these languages to choose from.
English.
Python is
Yeah,
only one of them,
yeah,
and it's my favorite. It's the only one that I have any familiarity with right now. But I just wanted to make the point that if somebody wanted to learn a different language, Coding Game does accommodate that. So that's a pretty exciting thing too.
yeah,
So
of course.
there are challenges, there are obstacles, but as Mr. Ba is proving, they can be overcome, and all it takes is time and
Yeah, of
patience,
course.
and we will get there. So one day we're both going to be in the
Yeah,
gold league for these competitions, Mike. I can feel it. Give it a year or two, and we're going to be top tier coding gamers. And hopefully
yeah,
people will like and subscribe and join our journey with that. And make sure that if you do want to send any donations, like I said, you can check the comments. I'm going to have Mike's PayPal information there. So if you want to sponsor, uh,
yeah.
someone who's
And thank you so much. You have done already a lot for me. Bring me into the world. I can never be more proud of you.
well, likewise, glad to have you here. We need you. So, yeah, keep it up, and like I said, just tune in, watch him go to work, and it's only a matter of time before we start making that progress. So,
Yeah,
keep the good work, Mike, and all the students that are following Mr. Ba,
yeah,
pay close attention. Pay close attention because he's
yes, of
telling you the
course.
truth. This is what you guys need to learn.
Thank you.
All right, we'll leave it there. And thanks so much, Mike. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. My pleasure.